Good evening and welcome to the March Board of Fire Commissioners meeting. We're at Bronxville Village Hall and we've already had a salute to the flag. And so I'll go right into the agenda for this evening. There's copies of the agenda up front. If you fellows in the back want to grab a copy, there's copies up front and you can pass them around. There's more here than we normally have. So,
which high school class is this? How did I know? Welcome.
Thank you.
Where are they from?
AP Economics. Okay. So tonight we have one set of minutes to adopt from the February 16th board meeting. The minutes have been circulated to the board. Any edits or changes, or can I get a motion to accept the minutes?
So be it.
A second.
Okay, Mr. Laurie, second Mr. Baker. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Mr. Napolitano abstains. Can I get a copy of those minutes? Okay, here they are. I'm going to go over what we did on the February 16th meeting briefly. That meeting was not televised. We had a conflict here using this room where the village was using the room at the same time we were planning on using it that evening. So what we did was we moved to the firehouse. It was a relatively short meeting, but I think it's fair to say what we did because it wasn't televised. We adopted 4 sets of minutes at that meeting from December and January meetings. The Chief Grogan gave his report. The Treasurer supplied bills and bank reconciliations for the board to review. So we were in negotiations with an architectural firm, and the board approved myself and the attorneys to finalize those negotiations, which we haven't done yet. A priest from Immaculate Conception was appointed as a fire district chaplain. Father Waldell was appointed fire district chaplain. We also have a new treasurer, and part of the issues that we're running against is we use Google, and we now use Google.
Google for Government.
Google for Government. It's an administrative software package that, and Jerry can explain it. It's rather than us have our own email server and our own cloud and our own typical technology department, we farmed everything out to Google. So all our documents, all our email, everything is a Google Drive. So our web hosting, it's all Google, but Google wants to be paid by credit card. The fire department typically has never had a credit card.
Actually, QuickBooks.
And QuickBooks also, we moved our accounting to QuickBooks on the cloud, so therefore we needed to have a credit card to pay QuickBooks because they don't take checks. Everybody wants credit cards. So we authorized the treasurer and the chief to get a credit card. That meant we had to have a credit card policy because the New York State Controller's Office wants us to have a credit card policy. So we drafted and passed a resolution that formalizes how that credit card can be used. And that was at last month's meeting. So the credit card policy was done. Let me see what else we did. We accepted the resignation of one of the volunteer firemen. Volunteer firefighter Lou Russo resigned from the Tuckahoe Hose Company. And the board passed a resolution to bring an Article 78 proceeding against the Firemen's Benevolent Association of the town of Eastchester, and there we were looking for the benevolent to comply with FOIL, the Freedom of Information Act law, and so we had to bring an Article 78. The board has to bless that we're going to bring an Article 78 for a municipality to bring an Article 78. An Article 78 is a procedure, it's a special procedure in New York State courts. And then we paid bills for a total on 2 warrants of $218,613.91. And so that was the majority of what we did last month. And just as a summary, because we didn't televise it, and I think it's fair for people to know what we did. Any other comments? Anybody? Okay. So let's move us to tonight's business, which we have Chief Grogan here will give us our fire district report.
Yes, Commissioner. Okay, it's actually for the month of February. I know we're a little late in the month this time around, but total alarms for the month of February, 318. We did receive mutual aid on 3 occasions.
Steve, close that door.
Not all the way.
That's in there.
Otherwise, yeah, it's coming from the conference room.
Outside.
Okay.
That's okay. Of course, the usual fire prevention, code enforcement officers are still quite busy, where we've got some numerous meetings on the table with the local major projects going on around town, so that part keeps us busy. The transition, you mentioned last month, we welcomed Mrs. Hedstrom on board as our new treasurer. Transition in the front office is going quite smoothly. Very much appreciative. Ms. Hedstrom is very qualified, and she's been working very hard on establishing her connections throughout the state and the county, and I'm looking forward to her taking over quite a bit of that. We did manage the in-house demonstration of a new Hearst battery-operated extrication equipment in the month of February. This was quite well received by the membership, and they seem to like it quite a bit. We're looking to replace our old Hearst tool extrication equipment that we have on Engine 30. I have been in contact with the Halmatro vendor, and I'm just looking to set up a demo with their equipment so we can do a little apples-to-apples comparison, and then I'll be able to actually get some price comparisons as well. We're probably talking in the $20,000 range for new spreaders and cutters with battery setups. Not a big fan of batteries, but they've come a long way, and the guys were quite impressed with it, so we probably will be going that way. But I just do want to get some Halmatro equipment in to do a comparison.
For the benefit of you guys sitting here, Matro tools and there's basically the jaws of life, the old jaws of life of cutting people out of cars. We're talking about replacing a set we have. We currently have hydraulic-driven tools that are on a pump inside a fire truck, and we're thinking about buying portable battery-operated ones now, where you can cut a car apart.
This will be to replace, what we did was when we got the newer Halmatro with the dual core and the onboard power plant, we took our older Hearst tool equipment that's been around as long as I have, and we put that on Engine 30 as a backup, because Engine 30 ends up on the parkways quite a bit. It served its purpose, but now the batteries, they've come such a long way that rather than buy another unit with the gasoline-powered motor, we'll look to get the batteries, and we'd still maintain both systems. We're just looking to do comparison with these new battery-operated tools, and maybe even get a set of Rams. But it's a very impressive tool when they brought them by.
And you would be surprised how many car rollover accidents we have on the Hutchins and River Parkway, particularly where it meets the cross-county. That section of road there, you have a significant number of rollovers from people traveling at high speeds, and they try to make the turn, and off they go. So that's why we need those tools.
It's a tough area, and we do a response with Mount Vernon and Nurse Shell, depending on exactly where it is, because it really falls on county property, and it'll be often in between districts. But because of the exits or the entrances to the parkways, we often go, that's why sometimes you'll see automatic aid, whether Mount Vernon or Shell, a lot of it's got to do with the responses to the parkway. So, but you end up with a lot of equipment. But we also have a lot of need just throughout the district between that and the stabilizing equipment and everything. So it's very well used. We did manage to take delivery on the 2 new thermal imaging cameras, what they refer to as TICs. This was something we started on last year to replace one of our very old units that just there's no more parts available. And we've gone with 2 of the smaller units, so we'll have them spread out. The goal was to eventually, every piece of apparatus will have a thermal imaging camera, which has really been a plus all around, whether for finding victims or actually just finding the seat of the fire. They're really a great tool. So that's moving along too. Right now, just a lot of things. I know the next meeting will be coming up soon. I do want to mention, I just noticed something, that water company, there's work, the next few days you might see issues with brown water throughout the district. It's not just Eastchester, nor Shell everywhere. Apparently they're doing work up on the Delaware Aqueduct valve that may affect this area. So if people happen to see this and you're wondering, it's not my guys flowing hydrants, it's the water company working on the system. So, And on that note, I keep getting the mailings from them. I take a little issue. They seem to blame the municipal fire tax on the municipality or government for the hydrant rental fee. It's just spread out over more people. What I do take issue is they send this letter out as if they maintain additional larger water mains just for fire protection service. Couldn't be any further from the truth. Our hydrants are hooked up same water mains that they're supplying water to you that they charge plenty for. So there is no special cost for fire protection, but they do maintain the hydrants somewhat. So I'll just end, something that I was going to plan on saying last month, and things got changed a little bit, and of course now it's actually since happened. I just have to make mention, last month, actually, as effective February 20th, we had our Captain Thomas Ferrara. This is after 35-plus years of dedicated service to the district. He was extremely well-liked captain. He was the guy that I always turned to. I'm very happy for him, but at the same time, it's a sorry day for Eastchester Fire District. I wish Tommy all the best. He was just a captain or a leader that you could count on to get the job done, and everybody enjoyed working for him, and I loved having him around on a call. So I'm going to surely miss Captain Thomas Ferrara after his 35-plus years of service to this district, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, Captain Ferrara was a person who was excellent at everything he did. He was extremely well-liked by his membership, and 35 years here, and he was a captain probably 20 of those years?
That sounds about right, yes.
So he was a captain and the captains in the Eastchester Fire District are basically, they call them tour commanders. They run the department during the day. They're the ones responding to all the calls, and we get all kinds of calls they respond to. They're the guys who are running the whole show, and Captain Tom did it phenomenally well, and he was just a super solid citizen, so
He also
we wish
is
him well.
very instrumental in our involvement with the squads and the hazmat equipment. He really took charge of that, and he kept track of our medical equipment and just kept all that stuff in line. He was just one of those guys to get the job done, and I feel he did have some time working with our new captain, Phil Pinto, and between him and Captain Tween, we'll continue moving forward, but really he set the groundwork for a lot of the stuff that we're known for today.
I agree.
Let it also be known that Captain Ferrara came up through the volunteers in the Chester Heights company.
Okay, didn't realize that. Okay, so next I'll introduce is Jamie Hedstrom, who is our new treasurer. Jamie comes to us extremely well qualified for the position. She graduated from the Jesuit University of New York twice as the Fordham, and has a bachelor's in accounting and a master's in taxation and a CPA and many years working for a large auditing firm, and extremely well qualified, and we're very happy to have found Jamie, and I think she's been great working for us, and this is her first presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner Winter. So prior to the meeting, I circulated the treasurer's report, so you'll have our monthly bank reconciliations, comparison of where we are on the budget, as well as the bills for this month. So from the perspective of the budget, we're currently operating at a surplus through the first quarter of this year. We are adequately covered for our operating expenses and payroll that will be, forthcoming in the next few months. We will be receiving our share of the taxes from the state, from the town of Eastchester on or about May 15th. But like I said, we are covered. We do not need to issue a tax anticipation notice. And so one of the things that we'll be looking at, and my understanding is this is something that was discussed last year prior to Mr. Malasardi's passing, we will be looking at transferring some money into the reserve fund to cover, potential additional equipment purchases of new trucks, as well as some of the construction that we're looking to do at the firehouses over the next few years. So that's one of the things that we'll be analyzing in the next few months. We may wait until we receive the May 15th tax payment, but there'll be more information on that when we meet again next month. We have, in the last month or so, we've had a few things on the financial side. We did have our financial statement audit. It was conducted by our auditors, Saks BST. They're, one of the biggest auditing firms for government entities. The audit went very smoothly. We expect to receive the results and have our audit reports by the end of this month. So this week, they'll be available in the business office for review. And I'll just say that, based on the work that was done by Mr. Malasardi and then what, the chief and Mary Lou Falcone picked up in the interim while there was no treasurer, everything was in great shape. The audit went very smoothly. It made it easy both on myself and on the auditors to transition this year. So we were very appreciative of that. And also, we have filed our annual update document. It's called an AUD. With the New York State Comptroller's Office. We had an extended deadline until April 29th to make that filing, and we made that filing on March 8th. Some of the other things that we're looking at, it was mentioned earlier, we have switched to QuickBooks Online. We're also looking at, with our current payroll provider, which is Ceridian, we're looking to upgrade to their online payroll processing platform. Right now, we're currently on a bit of an outdated platform, and we think, this will free up some resources. It'll make it a much more streamlined process. There should be less room for user error, and it'll, free up our time to do some additional analytics that, we would like to. So currently, we are in the process of reviewing an updated contract with Ceridian, and once we have agreed to favorable terms, my understanding based on board approval of this is that we will be moving forward with moving to the online platform.
Right, and with that comment, we are in, Cheryl Sacco, who's our attorney, who does the contract negotiations, working with Jamie, found some language in the existing contract we weren't a big fan of, and so I think we want to move to this platform. One of the reasons why is they have all our data going back for years, and we'd like to maintain their data, and we'll continue to maintain that data if we use the same provider. So we have to just decide whether we can get that done with Ceridian, whether it's acceptable to Ms. Sacco. So I think the board should decide whether we just leave it in Ms. Sacco's hands and say, okay, if you're comfortable with it, we're comfortable with it. And then, because the pricing is relatively close to what we have today. There's no real difference in pricing. So.
Right, and I think that's an important point about retaining the data. We did look, there are other payroll providers that we could potentially look to. However, I think that we're leaning towards staying with Ceridian because they do maintain our history, and there are a lot of times that we need that historical data for retirement purposes and other reasons. One of the other reasons we like the online platform is that it gives us the ability to run and customize reports that are probably unique to our needs, that might not be the reports they're typically used to providing. So we'd have a lot more flexibility and a lot more control over the data if we were to make this switch.
Right, so I don't know if we want to wait till next month to come back into it's something we already have.
I would address it next month. I mean, we want to continue with Ceridian, it sounds like, because there would be headaches, and I don't want to necessarily just give the attorneys blanket responsibility for making that decision. I'd rather they present the issue to us, and then the board could decide whether or not it's something we want to.
Okay. Well, the issue we're having with them right now is they have some language in their agreement that lets them have more control of the money between payments than we think they should have. They indemnify us completely, but it's slightly unusual wording. They're a very big company, and I don't know if other people have noticed the wording.
Yeah. And from our preliminary conversations with them, they are open to, alternative arrangements than what's in their, boilerplate contract. So that's where we are currently.
Right, but we'd like to get it done next month if we do this, not going to go on too long, because by doing it, it allows Jamie more flexibility as far as processing the payroll. It takes a lot of the communication flow down to keystrokes rather than verbal.
Jamie, do they have any modules that do any approval process, like between the chief and assistant chief for overtime and things of that nature that we can incorporate in there?
My understanding is that they do. I know they have a time reporting system, and I believe there's approvals functions within there. We have not gone too far into those discussions because we just wanted to start with getting us upgraded to this platform, and this was, again, it was sort of an easier, there's really no difference in the cost, and it's a very, easy switch, and then from that point to we could go down the road of looking into those additional options.
But they support those modules today? Okay, good. All right, great.
Yes, they do.
Now, Jamie, there was one other thing, just so I'm saying this just so the firemen, when they get these documents, we don't have to answer the question 75 times. The IRS required us to send a form called 1075C or
There's a 1095C.
1095C, which basically highlights your healthcare costs. It's part of the Obamacare, but with some more name for Obamacare.
Right, so it's under the Affordable
Act.
Care Act. So this was the first year that these filings were required. We are considered a large employee, and so we were required to file 1095C forms. They have to go to all of our employees, any, early retirees, meaning anyone under 65, survivors, and it's really just an information statement that is more of a check on us than anything for the employees. We did provide notice to the firefighters that they will be receiving these forms. They're due March 31st, which is coming up this week, so they'll be handed out prior to the deadline, and they'll be mailed out to the retirees. It's just something to maintain with their tax records, and it's a report that explains to them what their healthcare options were during the year and what healthcare they were enrolled in.
Right, so there's no, if anybody gets that, they shouldn't be shocked. It's not we're doing anything different, it's just.
That's right.
It's a new federal law and an IRS requirement, and every employer in the world basically is sending it out of a certain
The
size.
purpose of it is to divulge healthcare costs to the
Right.
employee.
Right, my guess is down the road, the government has a plan for this. That's
Right.
probably not friendly to the people, but that's
Well,
probably the
that
plan.
may be the case,
Compare
but
Obamacare rates.
for anyone who receives these forms, if you have already filed your tax return, it doesn't affect that. It's not that you have to amend your return. It's not needed to file your tax return. It doesn't have to be attached to your tax return. It truly is just an information statement that you should retain with your records.
Okay, so, any other questions, gentlemen? No. So I think it's been great having you hit the ground running like you have, and we've gotten quite a bit done, and we'll just keep on doing what we're doing. It sounds great.
And then the last thing I would say is that per the resolution that you just mentioned from last month's meeting, we have applied for the credit card for myself and the chief, so that's in process right now as well.
Right, and the other thing we're doing is we're going to update our purchasing policy. That was the one thing the auditor said we should think about increasing, because the state increased the limits on our procurement policy. So the attorneys have drafted a new procurement policy. It's been circulated to the board. Anybody's welcome to get a copy of it who wants to read it. And so we're going to probably do something with that at next month's meeting, and same investment policy, and we're going to work through all these different policies over time. Okay, thank you, Jamie.
One thing I want to just add, because you mentioned the credit card. I know somebody at home is going to be sitting there going, they're issuing a credit card. While the credit card is in for you and for the chief, the purchases and approvals of those purchases would still be maintained by the board, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's only two vendors who are pre-approved at this point in time. Google Drive, the Google Drive, and the QuickBooks account, the QuickBooks monthly payments.
Just want to make that clear. We all know that, but those scoring at home might have a, question about that, and,
And we're limiting the amount too, aren't we?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Limited amount, and I believe it'll be kept locked up in the office. It's not, I won't be walking around with a department credit
It
card.
was interesting when you got the policies back, because I got a whole bunch of policies to pick from. They all had commissioners in there. They could have the credit card. And we took all the commissioners out of it. It's just the chief and the treasurer. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. Have a good night. Okay, so we'll move on to committee reports. Career fireman, or that's Mr. Baker, anything there?
we're still in the process of negotiating the collective bargaining agreement and all that other stuff, so nothing new to report at that point.
And Mr. Laurie on the volunteers?
Only thing I had told the chief to order our badge for the chaplain. He's already got the hat We had one in the firehouse, we got that. And only other thing I could tell you right now is that memorial service is May 22nd at 9 a.m. at the Assumption Church. And afterwards, we have a ceremony at the monument on Post Road in John Albany's place,
What day was that again?
May 22nd. It's a
Thank you.
Sunday, 9 a.m. Mass at the Assumption Church.
I just want to add one thing. We received on March 23rd, by mail, we received from Waverly Engine Company Number 1, it says officers for 2016. At their
Right.
annual meeting, March 10th, following members were elected to serve for the year of 2016. President is Ralph Stelluti, Vice President Paul Crystal, Secretary Treasurer is David Horn, Captain is Anthony Fiore, congratulations. First Lieutenant is Marco Parolin, is that how it's pronounced?
Right.
Okay. And the trustees are Anthony Fiore, David Horn, Paul Crystal, Ralph Stelluti, and Ken Herbert. Every company's supposed to be providing this to the board, correct?
I forgot, I had made one up, I forgot to,
No, that's fine, but I mean, every company's supposed to do this, right?
right.
So, congratulations, thank you, Waverly Engine Company Number 1, for being the first one in and doing this. Question I have is, and this is a public policy issue. This is for this company alone, correct?
Right,
Okay. The trustees are also elected officers.
from their company.
Right, that violates public policy. Because the trustee's job is to keep an eye on the property and the,
Books of the company.
right, and the actions of the officers. So I'm not trying to dime anybody out, I'm just trying to understand how four of the five trustees are also, I'm sorry, not four, 3 of the 5 trustees are elected officers, and one is a captain, which captain is operational, so that's not really a problem. I don't understand. That's just a point of concern, but we can go into that at a later time. Because, it's not that anybody's going to be doing anything or anybody's doing anything wrong, it's just that the watchdog's watching themselves.
Usually they wouldn't hold two positions. Trustees would be separate from president, vice president.
Right, exactly.
They're not going to be the same people.
Right. So we may have to look into that. I'm not telling them who to make a trustee, but, the law says who you can and can't.
Right. Okay. Should we move on?
Well, the other thing I got on this too, so is there any way or recourse we can have them give their addresses? Because I noticed that the secretary treasurer is not an Eastchester resident. He actually lives in Mayapack. So he's the secretary treasurer of the Waverly Engine Company Number 1 without actually being an Eastchester resident. So I would say that all these members need to divulge their address. I assume it's part of the bylaws of the engine company. So, something that we should be aware of.
He also is an honorary chief,
Who is?
Mr. Horn. He's an honorary chief.
Yeah, it probably was when he was a
He
resident
is.
of Eastchester. right?
He still is.
Yeah.
You never
Would
t-
be, yeah.
No, he is. You never take that title away from him.
Right, but I would think that the bylaws of secretary treasurer, you would have to be a resident of the town.
Well, it's state law. It's not,
Yeah, that's
there's a superseding state law that says you have to be a resident of the town to be a member of a fire department. So,
right. It's not an Eastchester rule, that's a New York State rule.
right, right.
So I would want the rest of the rest of the folks here on the list to divulge their address.
And I know some of the names on this list here are, well, just to say we're not going to see anybody at a fire anytime soon. So let's move on to house and apparatus. Mr. Ingledon, do you want to go and describe what we're going to be doing at Chester Heights? And
As the chairman mentioned earlier, we passed a resolution at the last meeting to conditionally enter into an agreement with FSI Architecture to provide architectural engineering services related to the exterior work on the Chester Heights Firehouse. The work was all detailed in a facilities condition report, which we've gone into in previous meetings, so I won't kind of get into that in detail again. But basically, the scope of their services for this project would include construction document creation, the bid phase, preparing bid documents to go out for public bid, handling all permitting for the project, and also providing project management. We had agreed in principle on the agreement, and we were hoping that we would have had it signed by now. But we received what's called an American Institute of Architects document from FSI, which our attorneys made some significant changes in the language. And I don't think any of them are deal breakers. I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to meet agreement on them, but the changes were beyond the scope of what they handle with their in-house contracts person, attorney. So they sent it out to outside counsel. It's being reviewed now, and we're hoping that we're going to get something back within the course of the next week and be able to sign the agreement. We are a little bit concerned that the timing has gone a little bit further than we had hoped. I think it's still possible to get this work started this summer, towards the end of the summer, and completed before the cold weather sets in. But that's going to mean that we're going to have to get this agreement, signed probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks, and have documents ready to go within a month after that. And then allowing a month and a half after that for bids to actually come in. That time frame works, but like I said, it's getting a little bit tight, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, thank you. House and apparatus, okay, budget and finance, James, Treasurer gave a very good report there. I don't think we have much more to add to that. Health and wellness, do we have anything there, Jerry?
No, we have regular scheduled meetings. The last one was last month that we had with the chief and the group.
Right.
We're showing some progress there. I noticed some bills on some stuff we talked about already got paid.
We had one issue with engine 29 with the roof leaking. We've contacted the vendor, and the vendor will take that engine back whenever we can get it down to them, and at their factory, and they'll repair the roof. So I know that was a concern for the membership when that engine was going to get fixed. And
As well as the new tools, right?
the new cutting tools.
Yeah, extrication tools.
So that's moving along. On tonight's topic, we have replacement of engine 27 and engine 31. Currently, our engines are roughly 14 years old. The lifespan of a fire engine is typically 10 years for a first-line piece of apparatus to 15 on some cases.
Depending on use, 10 to 15, a ladder truck's a little bit longer.
So
We get our full use out of them.
we're getting to that end of the useful life on engine 27 and 31. One of the other problems with those two engines, they're American LaFrance. American LaFrance went out of business during the economic downturn around '08. Getting replacement parts is difficult. So the price tag for a new engine can range anywhere from $400,000 to $600,000, depending on how much chrome you want to put on it and how much gadgets. Volunteer companies will spend up to $600,000 for an engine. We will buy an engine that's closer to $400,000, hopefully. We're looking just for basic,
I would say expect 5.
450.
Especially 27, you gotta realize,
Okay, so,
we're looking for 2. One is also our rescue, it's a pumper rescue. So there is additional equipment.
anything for
There's no bells and whistles, it's all tools.
give me a price of 450. Okay, so we're going to have to write out a spec for this engine. The spec for an engine is probably over 100 pages. The specification sheet to buy a fire engine is over 100 pages on all the different fittings and things you can put on it. So we have to start the RFP process, and I think we're going to need to buy 2, because we have 2 pieces of apparatus that are used more than the rest, and that's engine 27 and 31, are both pretty much identical units. So call it that's going to be somewhere between $800,000 and $1 million for those 2 pieces. And that's going to happen probably in the next 10 months that we do something like that. To build a fire engine takes 8 to 10 months to build. So, and you can't go buy them off the shelf, you have to pretty much spec them out. So, we're gonna be in the process of pricing out 2 engines. We have the next item, is any objection to pricing out 2 engines, folks, or are we?
Nope. No, I
Pretty
think we
much.
need to do it.
We're pretty
I
much
think
in
we
that,
probably should include in the budget some amount for a independent purchasing agent to review whatever specs we come up with, just to make sure that, you know, we've covered all of our bases and there's
Yeah.
no,
now, we,
which I think a number of departments, the majority of departments actually do. They just don't build them, you know, entirely in-house.
right. For your Bronxville folks, engine 29 is about 6 years old. That was built on by spec about 6 years ago, and that was about $400,000.
It's high force, Kim.
By force, yeah. We also have we have the construction project we already spoke about in Chester Heights, where we're going to be doing the exterior envelope, roof, windows, and siding of the building. Our price tag there could be somewhere in the $1 million range for the exterior envelope. Would you say that's fair?
Yes.
So,
Which
That's-
would include.
And that's only, well, hopefully it's going to come in less than that, we expect, but not dramatically less. And again, that only addresses what they established as critical elements, things that need to be done within the next 1 to 3 years. There was a list of additional, you know, repair, replacement items that had a slightly longer time horizon, but we're talking, you know, 2 to 4 years down the road. So
You're just talking about exterior, not,
the stuff we're
Gross
attacking
floor.
initially is all exterior building elements. So it's the roof, it's the
Not the
facade, it's windows.
not the floor?
It's not the floor, not the floor right now.
exterior elements only.
Eastchester.
And then we'll end up with the interior after the exterior is done.
Okay, but we know the condition of the floor.
Right,
That
right. But we want to keep the firehouse open as long as possible. If we did the floor, we'd have to close the house for some lengthy period of time, if at the same time we're doing the outside.
But when you do the floor, you're still gonna have to close the firehouse, right?
Yeah, when the floor gets done, but you're going to hopefully do it in the summer months. You can't do both projects.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying, whether you do the floor tomorrow or next year, you're still gonna have to close the firehouse.
Yes, but you'd rather close it in the summer months, not in the
I'm
winter
aware
months.
of that.
Yeah.
But
Wouldn't be the
don't
first-
get me wrong, I know the roof, the siding has to be done, but I would think the floor is more important right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not if you have water coming through the roof. I mean, it's just,
Floor is, we've been talking that floor for how long, and how many years has that been short up?
oh,
The theory was to start on the
Long
outside
time.
and move in.
so.
How many years has it been short up?
I understand, you have to do, the roof and the exterior is in desperate need, and you do have to protect the rest of the inside. I'm not saying, definitely the roof and the facade, I mean, I've had maintenance put up boards just to keep
Yeah,
the
no,
bricks,
I
so
know.
it's definitely needed. But when I heard 1 to 4 years, yet the floor, I'm hoping is a little sooner.
Well, the floor is, listen, the hope is that we can get the work done on the exterior, started, completed.
Yeah.
This started in the summer, completed by the winter months.
Right.
At that point, we're going to probably engage again, hopefully with the same architect if things go well, and they're going to do the same thing for the interior building elements that they've done for the exterior, and that will include the floor work. Hopefully, we'll be able to get it done, you know, the following year. But it may go a year beyond
That's
that.
a lot, yeah,
depending
no,
on
I
time.
heard the
But this is,
floor.
we're not looking to push this work off, you know, for
Right.
several years.
But you got to stage it over 2 years, because you can't do it all, or otherwise
I
that house will be closed for the winter,
I
and
heard
nobody
something
wants
about 1 to
that.
4 years, the floor's been needed. And I have another, in other words, besides the 2 pumpers, we will need to replace a ladder truck, and it's gotten to the point where we can't get a ladder truck to fit in Station 2 anymore. We would need to do some type of switching. And Station 4, Station 3, I think, has clearance, so, but the floor has to be addressed. So I'm just trying to look ahead, because next year we gotta seriously look at a truck, and, you know, if it's,
Right.
and that takes a year, then it'll coincide with the floor being complete, and we'll be able to get a
What
ladder
the
truck.
chief is saying is our ladder truck is a 2001, I believe, They're both 2001s.
One or two.
One in 2001, 2002. Ladder trucks cost about $700,000 to $800,000 to $900,000 for a ladder truck. So, and we have a unique problem since our firehouses are old. They have low door clearance. And since the EPA has come out with new standards on environmental controls of diesel engines, and you can only use diesel engines for fire trucks, those diesel engines require a lot more room to house the motor and to house all the emission control equipment, and that makes the fire truck bigger and taller and wider, which makes it difficult to fit in most of our firehouses. So we have a problem when it comes to ordering ladder trucks, and they have to be specially designed, specially sized, and we can't buy a run-of-the-mill ladder truck, so it gets more expensive. So that's another issue we have when it comes to ladder trucks, which is not far down the road either. So, okay, so we done with the apparatus? So basically, we're going to have to spend a couple $1 million on apparatus in the next 3 years, is my guess.
Yes.
And we may be able to bond that out, which may be practical. We may not be able to bond it out. We have to check that out. Okay, the next item on my agenda was we received a letter from Local 916 regarding the Assistant Chief's position and our communications with Westchester County. The board, in its desire to watch expenses and monitor expenses, was evaluating the Assistant Chief's position. The assistant, we currently have an Assistant Chief. We have a Chief, Assistant Chief, Captain, Lieutenant, and then firefighter is how the command structure goes. We sent a letter to Westchester County to evaluate if we abolish the position of Assistant Chief, what would be the mechanics of that. We received a letter from Local 916 asking us to clarify that position and to clarify duties and that type of thing. We will be responding back to Local 916 with a letter of some sort, responding to their letter, but the board is still discussing and evaluating that. I can tell you there'll be no current firemen no current lieutenants that are going to become firemen, or no current captains that are going to become lieutenants. We have an empty captain slot at this moment, and the board is discussing this while we have an empty captain slot. But there'll be no shifting among the current captains or the current lieutenants as far as their title. So I know that was rumored out there that somehow this was going to affect people's current titles. The only position we were looking at is the Assistant Chief, and we're still communicating and we're still discussing with Westchester County, and that's where we are. So that's as much as I have on that. We have a discussion about the Westchester County Career Academy here, and this is kind of interesting. During the course of the month, there was a series of emails between us and Westchester County about the upcoming class of Westchester County is going to be running for firefighters. And during that communication, I learned that the Westchester County Career Academy is actually not run by Westchester County, according to Westchester County. It's run by the Westchester County Career Chiefs Association and not the county itself, which I'm not sure what the Westchester County Career Chiefs Association actually is as far as a public entity or any entity. I know its president is a former Eastchester retired firefighter, but Westchester County couldn't tell me if we have any liability insurance. They couldn't tell me very much about Westchester County Career Chiefs Association or their relationship with the Westchester County Career Chiefs as far as supervisory relationship over who runs the academy and how the money goes back and forth. So we sent them a FOIL request asking them to clarify certain documentation, like do they have a written agreement between Westchester County and the Westchester County Career Chiefs, which is a private entity? Do they have any documentation between the two? Who is on the hook if somebody gets hurt at the academy? Who has the liability? Who has the liability insurance? Who appoints the officers at the Westchester County Career Academy? Is it Westchester County or is it the association? And so This was just a simple fact-finding we sent them, and we're hoping they'll come back with some reasonable answers, and they have a lot of insurance, and all this stuff is really all no worries for us. But I think from a board's point of view, there is a concern if we're going to send somebody up to the academy. I always thought it was Westchester County, the county itself, that was providing the training. I didn't think it was a third party. If it's the county's position, it's a third party, that shifts due diligence to us to understand who that third party is. So that's where we are, and that's what we have. It was somewhat surprising. Anybody? Okay, so that's just an update on that. During the course of the last couple months, the town of Eastchester has brought an action, the township itself. Your students will like this. This is very good local government to watch. The town, which is the same body of taxpayers, has brought an action against Eastchester Fire District, same body of taxpayers, in state Supreme Court, wanting us to pay the town's tax bill, water bill, a portion of it, 28% of the town's hydrant bill. The Public Service Commission a few years ago changed the way hydrants are charged, and if you're a Bronxville resident, now that cost for that hydrant now shows up on your monthly water bill. If you're a Tuckahoe resident, now shows up on your monthly water bill. If you're an Eastchester resident, that bill gets sent to the town. In years past, the fire district would reimburse the town 28% of that bill. For some reason, we haven't been able to figure out why yet. So we stopped paying the town because we had no documentation to prove it. And so the town objected to that and has filed an action against the fire district. That action was filed in Westchester County Supreme Court. We've answered their lawsuit, and now it's in the process of working its way through the court system. For students who want to follow government and figure this all out, it'd be a wonderful thing for you to follow. It'd be somewhat interesting. So that's what's happening there. And so we're responding and just waiting for that to come back.
I can see by all the smiles, there's a lot of skepticism out there in that.
Yes, so that's where that is. We've also received an action from our former chief regarding his reduction in his pay. He filed an Article 78 against the district. The district is defending that and has responded back with papers on that in the last month. And the district also brought two actions against the volunteer benevolent and the volunteer firefighters to produce documents they haven't been producing as to date. So that's what we have in the fire district for news. The other thing we're going to be doing, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be redoing all our policies, purchasing policy, all the different policies we have, and each month we'll start setting aside a policy, reviewing it to get up to date with current thinking and changing our policies. So with that said, I'll ask any other thing anybody would want to discuss before I ask Local 916? Okay.
I just want to ask something. First of all, there's a Commissioners Association meeting this Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. at the Valhalla Firehouse. If anybody's interested, I'll probably attend. It's the firehouse closest to up on Columbus Avenue, closest to the town hall up there. Another concern I was wondering, when a work order is done, like say if a door has to be repaired or say someone threw a stone through a window and has to be done and our maintenance man does that, does he get a job order to do that, or is just told by the chief or the assistant chief, go fix that?
What are you asking?
How do you tell Vinnie to do work?
Yeah.
The malfunctions are written up, and if it's something for him to handle, the assistant chief passes it on to him.
In other words, with a job order?
Pretty much, it's a malfunction report stating the problem.
All right, no, I just wanted to clarify, because this way, say the maintenance man can't say, I was never told, or you or the assistant chief say, I thought I told you, and I just wanted to make sure that we do that.
I offered to give Vinnie email, but...
Pardon me?
I offered to give Vinnie email so that we can monitor it that way, but...
Yeah, I just want to know, because, no, when I was working, we used to get a job order saying, go pick up this or bring this back here, and that's all I wanted to know. Let me see, was there, that's it. That's good.
Local 916, Stephen, no report? Any public comment? Would anybody like to address the board?
None of you guys?
Any of you guys?
Come on.
You don't want to ask any questions? Don't be shy. I have some insight to give you guys then. So you guys watch John Oliver? Got to watch that on Sunday night, right? So about 3 weeks ago, he did a special on special government districts. Watch it. That's exactly what we are. So watch his video. It's on YouTube. It really explains to you what special government districts are about. We are a special government district. We actually were here before some towns and villages were incorporated, which is why why we govern the way we are right now. And the same thing goes on for towns and villages. So I would recommend you watch that video. It's entertaining. Make sure your parents aren't in the background when listening to some of his words, but it gets to the point and really makes you understand what special government districts are about. So watch it. Come up.
Oh, he
You got to come up.
You got to come up.
may not want to come up.
You have to identify yourself and where you live. You don't have to give the street address, just what town or,
My name is
okay?
Michael Calabrese, and I live in Bronxville. I'm just curious what areas fall under the jurisdiction of this board and
Okay,
committee.
good question. We are the Eastchester Fire District, which is Bronxville, Tuckahoe, and Eastchester. We're basically 6 square miles. We have 5 firehouses, 75 firemen, and a budget of about $16.5 million. Our budget has as large as the Village of Bronxville village budget, not the school district, which has about a $44 million budget. We are, yeah, take that education seriously.
I wish those people at home could just see how big his eyes got.
So, yeah, we roughly have a $16.5 million budget, and we're about the same size as the village as far as budget goes. The town budget is about $30-odd million, I guess around 33, I'm not sure the exact number. So we're half the size of the town. Most of our budget, 90% of it, has to do with employees, employee benefits, and, so most of the stuff is that. But that's,
So it's a little bit different about us. We're a 7/24 government agency. If you look at everyone else, well, some of them can be, like department works and stuff like that might be, but we run 7/24, 365 days a week. We have a large amount of employees, but a small amount of people in our front office to do all that, compared to if you see how a village or a town is operated or managed.
And geographically, it's the entire town of Eastchester, including the 2 incorporated villages. Okay?
And then we stand as elected officials, your parents, or when you turn 18, hopefully voted for one of us, to manage their money. So that's kind of how we were put in this position.
and we're all volunteers. There's no compensation. Similar to your Village of Bronxville Board of Trustees, all volunteer. Your Bronxville Village School Board, all volunteer. Tuckahoe School Board, volunteer. I believe Eastchester is as well. School boards are generally all volunteer. Town boards, the village board and the town board, they have small compensation, but it's very, very small. It's mostly volunteers. So it's all public service volunteer work.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Any
You going to-
follow-up questions?
You going to William and Mary?
Jerry, I can't find
You
the,
guys wearing the shirt.
the payment bills, I need the warrant. No, with a sheet, I need the.
You guys should thank him for taking a bullet for you.
I didn't get the second one. Oh, you didn't have the second one. We do.
Don't worry about it. I'll meet you in the alley afterwards.
That's what you have.
There's 2 of them.
You going there or somebody else in
I
your
have-
family going?
Yeah, oh God, yes.
Okay. It's a nice school. I've been by it. I've been to it, yeah.
Okay.
It's too good for me. I wasn't,
Can you get me the, see if you can find it. Okay, so we have to pay the bills. We have 2 sets of warrants to go through, March 16th and March 28th. I just need the amount for the March, got it. So, for The amount of warrants for March 16th is Verizon transferred, is, Jamie, it was a 209, right? 209,365.02. So 209,365.02 is March 16th, and on March 28th, $179,810, spot 72. So we have all the bills in front of
So
us.
for your guys' education, we just approved $500,000 in bills from
Well, a
taxpayers'
little less than
money.
that,
A little
but-
bit less than that.
Thank your
So I-
parents, they paid for
They
it.
paid for it.
So can I get a motion to pay the bills?
Make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Baker, and then do I get a second?
Second.
Mr. Peter? Now, there's one bill in there for $85 for me, because I took commissioner training. If you're an elected official and you get reelected, you have to go to commissioner training. In this case, it was 6 hours of online course, learning the rules of New York State, which I did learn about. We needed a credit card policy. That was the one takeaway. So that's where we got our credit card
We
policy.
didn't teach you any new tricks?
So no new tricks. Since it's de minimis, I will,
The amount went down?
was it 85, it was online, so it was $85. I
Oh,
don't know.
so, but if you went to the class, it was 125.
See, I saved money.
Did they give you, you went to the live class, right?
Yeah.
Did they give you lunch or anything for that?
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Okay.
That's it, your $50.
That much different from 85 to 125?
Wasn't it a spectacular lunch?
That's some lunch,
So I'll
Waldorf prices.
I'll poll the board. Commissioner Laurie on the paying
Aye.
the bills, aye. Commissioner Baker?
Aye.
Commissioner Ingledon said aye. Jerry, you're abstaining?
From March, not
From
February.
March. Okay. Jerry abstains from March, and you two guys are fine, and I'll say aye. Okay,
Bills, not voting on minutes.
motion passes.
That was to pay the bills.
Yeah, well, I'm staying in there.
Okay.
All right, any other,
Know what-
anything else tonight? I guess we're going to close the meeting. Any board member comments?
I have nothing.
We had a few that passed away in March, and we just had an honorary chief just passed away last week. We had 2 members from Waverly, Mr. Clint Herbert, who tragically lost his life in a car accident, Matthew McCormick, those were from Waverly, Mike Santiani and John Nesbitt, both from North End Hose, and honorary chief Larry Kutzner from Chester Heights. So in honor of them, we closed the meeting for them.
Okay, so we'll close in their honor. All righty, motion to close the meeting?
So be it.
Mr. Laurie, a second? Mr. Baker? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and we'll have a moment of silence.
That's why I said.
Thank you for coming, folks.